Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, reacting to some news coming out about Kawhi Leonard. Even though the Raptors are in the NBA Finals and this is a place no one's ever been before, the news, what ESPN, Undisputed, all these broadcasting network shows, news outlets, all they really want to talk about is Kawhi Leonard, whether he'll stay or leave, and then just about the Golden State Warriors. So those are the two big topics of discussion. There's been more reports coming out now about this whole situation with Kawhi Leonard, and we have to break it down. As followers of the channel know, we don't really address all of the little things that happen with Kawhi because it seemed like every day, especially at the beginning of the year, something new, some new information would come out in tidbits, and none of it ends up being super accurate in my opinion. I feel like no one really knows, even though there are people locked in, but we have to address the stuff when it comes out in waves, and according to True Hoop Network, they have sources that are plugged into people in the association and other people around the league. They say that Kawhi Leonard will be interested in signing a short-term extension, something around 1 to 2 years. I think the 2 years number has been mostly thrown out there because it makes more sense because Kawhi Leonard, obviously with some injury issues, if he signs for 2 years, obviously he gets those 2 years of guaranteed money, and then after that second year, he can reapply for the Supermax contract because he would be with the Toronto Raptors for 3 years, and then whether he wants to stay or leave, he'll be eligible for that huge payday that he passed up on in San Antonio. So that the 2 years has been the number that's been mostly rumored, but the True Hoop Network people, they're the ones who initially broke the story. Anyways, this is paired along with Kawhi Leonard apparently buying more real estate in Toronto as of late. Kawhi Leonard's been apparently active on the real estate market in Toronto. So a lot of things are coming together, and it's leading to a lot of speculation that Kawhi Leonard will stay short-term, at least short-term, with the Toronto Raptors. And the fact that they made the NBA Finals, it's something that is believable. Now, before I break down my opinion on the whole Kawhi Leonard situation, as new things continue to develop, I just want to say, every report that comes out, I still take with a grain of salt. I don't think Kawhi Leonard's people, I don't think there's people that are locked in that really know what's going on through Kawhi's head. We've heard that TSN, who have the most insider knowledge, the people, the Canadian reporters, the people that are around the Toronto Raptors 24/7. Apparently, the Raptors front office back in March grew increasingly confident that they were going to re-sign Kawhi Leonard beyond this year. I think that's a believable source as it's coming from the front office, not Kawhi himself. But people that say that they know what Kawhi Leonard's going to do, I just don't see that. I don't think Kawhi is out here telling his people, telling his inner circle what his plans are. He seems like a guy that's completely locked in on these NBA Finals and, the whole playoff run. I think he's a guy that's all about basketball, isn't even looking forward to the free agency or anything like that going forward. He's a guy that's living in the moment. He even says it in all of his interviews. I'm sure he hasn't even made up his mind, but at the beginning of the season, we had a lot of reports coming out that Kawhi had no interest and he refused to play, and all these, the dumb stuff that like Chris Haynes and Woj, they've been tweeting throughout the beginning of the season. That's kind of evolved now to speculation that he'll stay, that, the Toronto Raptors have certainly exceeded expectations. They've done everything for Kawhi in his favor. I think the whole perspective from people that analyze the NBA, it's looking more and more like Kawhi is going to stay the more the Raptors exceed expectations. I think the people that are making, the insider sources are just guys that, are very knowledgeable about the NBA and probably talk to a lot of players, but they're guys that are just going off speculation. Yes, they're credible in the sense that they talk to NBA guys, but I don't think it's coming from Kawhi's mouth himself. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what your thoughts on the sources. I've taken the same approach about this Kawhi Leonard, will he stay or will he go drama, throughout the whole season. I think he's going to make his decision at the end of the season and not really give it much thought while he's making probably the most exciting playoff run of his life. So, I don't know, that's just my opinion. Maybe people are locked in and he's telling his inner circle that he's going to stay. But just like the insiders, they knew that he wasn't going to play in Toronto, I'm going to take everything with a grain of salt that comes from official sourced reports of Kawhi Leonard speaking. Now, even though I don't necessarily buy that Kawhi Leonard has made his mind up yet, I do think that the fact that the narrative is changing is a positive thing for the Toronto Raptors and Raptors fans, obviously, as people who want him to stay being a Toronto Raptor. The real estate thing, that's something that's very intriguing for me, as it seems like people kind of write off the real estate thing and say NBA players buy things left, right, and center. And yes, that's fair. Maybe it only gets reported when there's rumored destinations and free agency implications involved. But I remember LeBron James bought a house back in Cleveland when he was with Miami Heat, and people looked at it as nothing. And he was selling his mansion in Miami, 3 days before, and no one really expected LeBron to leave at that point. But he ended up leaving to go back to Cleveland, and the only real reports that came out were the real estate thing. So I think that could have some implications on Kawhi Leonard's future. That's something that we don't want to buy into too much, but it's certainly a positive. And the thing that's great about this video is there isn't any negative reports coming out. If there's our reports coming out, we'd rather them be positive than negative, so that's a good thing. But I know everyone has their own opinion about what's going through his head and stuff, but I'm going to give you mine because I think he's going to stay. I've held you can listen back to podcasts from throughout the season. I said if we made the Eastern Conference Finals and at least gave it a solid run, gave a solid push, we didn't get swept or something in the Eastern Conference Finals, I thought he'd stay. With how the Toronto Raptors handled everything throughout the regular season, how, the city just embraced Kawhi Leonard, they did everything for him throughout the whole year. I thought if we had moderate success, the Raptors would be able to retain Kawhi Leonard at least on a short-term deal. And personally, my views haven't changed. We've exceeded those expectations in, honestly, a tremendous fashion. Because not only did we make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, we got there in a fashion where Kawhi Leonard stitched himself into the blanket of NBA history. It's a weird analogy, but that game-winning shot has to be a moment that he has to look at and just kind of be baffled by, or maybe not baffled, but be excited about, have positive memories with, because there's been a lot of great players, some even greater than Kawhi, that have never had a moment like that in the NBA. So that's such a huge thing to happen in Toronto on their home court, and then we make it to the Eastern Conference Finals and we play the Milwaukee Bucks, and despite going down 2-0, we show that we can bounce back from adversity, go up against a team that everyone expected to beat us, and win on the road, win all our games at home, and Kawhi to have that special dunk on the Toronto Raptors home court once again so the crowd can go wild. He's just had some phenomenal moments leading up to the NBA Finals, which amplifies the memories, that amplifies the positivity surrounded with his thoughts on this run. So I think just the success on court, on top of the regular season load management, hiring his friend as a coach, doing all these things to appease Kawhi Leonard, all that paired together, I think that holds my narrative true that if we made the Eastern Conference Finals or especially the NBA Finals, he'll stay. But there's more fuel added to the fire, in my opinion, as well, with how the city of Toronto has gone all out to make Kawhi Leonard happy. The murals. There's been about, I think there's 7, 8. I've lost count of the number of murals I've seen online in Toronto, painted of Kawhi, painted of these Toronto Raptors, which even though Kawhi doesn't seem like a sentimental guy, obviously he's human and he appreciates things, but those murals have to be just kind of, you look at that and you just see appreciation from such a big city, such a diverse group of fans. That just has to make him feel good about the city of Toronto and that stuff right there. The Kawhi and Dine, I believe it's called. I apologize if I pronounce that wrong, but that has to be intriguing. Rich people love to have free things, and if Kawhi Leonard can eat for free in pretty well any restaurant in all of Toronto, that's a huge reason to stay. And the offered the free penthouse from this real estate company. That's very exciting. As a guy, that's his whole rookie salary. That's probably more than he made in his first year in the NBA. So all of these things paired together, I know LA is his home and that's his initial destination, but he seems very appreciative of the fans. He's never badmouthed the weather once in Toronto, and a lot of guys even jokingly make remarks about it, but he seems to be acclimated. He says he goes from garage to garage. He's not worried about the weather in the winter, and he's going to make his decision in the summer. It's finally heating up in central Canada now, so I just wanted to give you guys an update on the whole Kawhi Leonard situation and give you my opinion. Yes, I'm happy that there's positive reports coming out about Kawhi. I'd much rather those than the negative ones we were hearing all throughout the beginning of last season. But I'm not gonna invest myself too much into it. I think we can wait till the offseason to amp up the speculation on what Kawhi's going to do, because this season hasn't even been finished yet. The Toronto Raptors are in a great place to win this NBA championship. Unfortunately for the Warriors, they're dealing with the injury bug, and the Toronto Raptors are coming around. And despite the fact the Warriors had a phenomenal, one of the best offensive showings in Game 2, they were still able to only lose that game by about 4 or 5 points. They won game 1. I think the Toronto Raptors can get 1 or 2 of these games on the road and really set themselves up to win an NBA championship. So that's going to be the biggest, most attractive reason for Kawhi to stay. If we can win a championship, just his 1 year in Toronto, the first year he comes, he wins an NBA chip, I think that's the thing we should be worried about if we want Kawhi to stay. I know the he stay movement is looking for every little minute detail in Kawhi's life to amp up their case for him staying and dilute the stress, get rid of the stress. So it's fun. It's fun to hear the Toronto Raptors be talked about so much in the media. Unfortunately, it's something about a player leaving and all that, but the team is in the NBA Finals. It's the only thing I'm really worried about right now, but let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think on the whole situation in the comments below. Obviously, there's going to be news coming out day by day because it's been the hugest storyline for the Toronto Raptors all season, and now that we're on the biggest of stages, it's seemingly the only thing people want to talk about. So you're the best for making this far. Check out the Twitter, the Instagram, all that cool stuff. We'll keep you updated on all news that happens about Kawhi, the Raptors, the NBA Finals. I'm sorry for the Instagram DMs. They've been kind of on the backlog lately. I've been traveling. I just traveled from Montreal back to Newfoundland. I'm back home, so I'll be able to respond to all those more frequently now that I'm back home. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.